Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wasn't sure.
Oh, I'm at 3:30. I apologize.
You scared me a lot with that, Mike. Thank you.
I'll see you in an hour. Apologies.
This Court of Common Pleas Civil Division is now declared open. The Honorable Ann M. Butchart presiding. This is a public hearing, live streamed via YouTube and can be accessed on the court's website. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I'm going to ask the individual who's identified at iPhone if they could slightly rotate their picture, because right now you're appearing not quite horizontal.
Just 1 second, because this is my daughter's iPhone. I have an Android and I thought her phone was better. How, maybe you do it this way? Is that better?
Perfect. That's absolutely great. Thank you very much.
All I did was stand the phone up.
Okay. I'm Judge Ann Butchart, and we're presiding today virtually over the initial hearing in an Act 135 petition that's been filed by Philadelphia Community Development Coalition, Inc. as the petitioner versus Rose Stiles and the unknown heirs of Elise Severs Warner and Warner Faith Tabernacle, the respondents. Our docket number is 2208-02728, and the subject property of this petition is 849 North 16th Street in Philadelphia, 19130. I'm going to ask everyone who's present in our courtroom today to put their name on the record and their relationship to the case. And we'll begin, of course, with the petitioners, since they're the ones who've initiated this action.
Thank you, Your Honor. Joseph Pecora on behalf of petitioner, Philadelphia Community Development Coalition, Inc.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is David Champagne. I am the president of the Philadelphia Community Development Coalition.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, iPhone, I don't know your name. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, I didn't know whether everybody was going to go first. I'm sorry. My name is Jardell E. Alston Johnson, and I am the descendant of Daisy Elise Severs.
All right. Could you spell your first name for us, please?
Sure. J-O, D as in David, E, L-L-E. Middle initial E, last name A-L-S-T-O-N hyphen Johnson.
Thank you very much. And you indicated that you are a blood descendant of
Yes.
Elise Severs, no?
It's Daisy is the first. Daisy Elise Severs Warner was her name.
Okay. Thank you. And the individual identified as South Kensington Capital. Could you put your name on the record for us today?
Yes, my name is James Buari. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Jardell, who's helping her with this whole matter.
All right. And what is your last name, sir?
Buari, B as in boy, U as in umbrella, A as in apple, R as in Roger, I as in iPhone.
All right. And you're assisting Ms. Alston Johnson. And are you with South Kensington Capital? Do they have an interest in this case?
No, that's just the name that pops up.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to ask Mr. Pecora, since he filed the petition on behalf of the petitioner, to give us a brief statement. And if he has any photographs of the subject property, I'd appreciate seeing them in your statement, sir. But you can begin with your brief statement of the case.
Yes, Your Honor. So as Your Honor indicated, we filed this against 849 North 16th Street. PCDC is prepared to present evidence that the property is a one-story former church with open unsafe violations related to the structure of the building. I will try and find photos in 1 second. We are prepared to present evidence on that. The title history of this property is very complex. There is a title owner, Ms. Rose Stiles, who purportedly took title from Elise Sabers Warner, who died 50 years prior to the execution of that deed. We have also identified as a respondent the unknown heirs of Miss Warner, who she used both the name Daisy and Elise. We presented evidence of that in our pleadings, but they are the same person. Since filing the petition, we have confirmed who the heirs are. Namely, it is Miss Alston Johnson, who is present today, Tammy Alston, and Musette Pace.
What was the third name?
Musette, Muzette, Pace, Pace.
Yes.
Pace. I'm having a hard time on the first letter. The last name.
It's P as in Peter, ACE.
Thank you.
And Miss Alston Johnson can confirm if that is accurate.
Yes, those are my sisters.
Thank you very much. And if you have pictures of the property, that would be helpful to us.
Yeah. And everyone can see this, correct?
Yes, the court can see it. And when was this taken?
I believe this was taken within the week prior to the filing of the petition, but Mr. Champagne can confirm that.
All right.
Yes, I took these pictures shortly before we filed the petition.
Okay.
And as Your Honor can see, there is a LNI unsafe violation notice on the door related to the fractures, which are depicted in these photographs.
Okay. And just for the record, that unsafe violation notice, what is the date of that, please?
April 23rd, 2022.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Pecora.
So the other entity with an ownership interest in this property is Warner Faith Tabernacle. So the decedent, Miss Warner, in her will, there was a trust under will whereby property would go to the the heirs that I've previously identified, and then there was a residual beneficiary, which was Warner Faith Tabernacle. As indicated in the initial pleadings and in my motion for alternative service, Warner Faith Tabernacle no longer exists as an organization and has not for some time. There were 2 prior attempts to quiet title with regard to this property. In both cases, the church was served by alternative service, as there's no longer any living individuals representing the church. So service has been effectuated on all of the heirs. Miss Rose Stiles, we attempted service. We filed a motion for alternative service as she is avoiding service. In that motion, we presented evidence that she does reside at the property where service was attempted. We have also filed for alternative service against Warner Faith Tabernacle, again, for the same reasons articulated in the prior alternative service motions filed by other parties in the past. All other interested parties have been served, and service should be reflected on the docket.
Okay. And if you'll just describe, the court has received your motion for alternative service. If you would just put on the record the efforts that you intend to take in your alternative service motion in the event that the court grants it.
So for Miss Rose Stiles, we would ask to be able to effectuate service by regular and certified mail at the address it is the property that she owns in Philadelphia. It's the only property she owns, and it is the address that she has listed in recent litigation as her home address.
What is that address?
It is 800 West Wellens Street, Wellens Street.
Okay.
And with regard to Warner Bay Tabernacle, we would ask for posting of the property only because that is the only address that's ever been associated with this property. In the prior cases, there was publication. However, in both cases, there was never any response to the publication.
Okay.
I should also note, Your Honor, that we did serve the Attorney General's office with notice of this action, as it is a defunct nonprofit. The Attorney General's office has not yet responded.
Okay. If I understood you correctly, Mr. Pecora, you indicated that Ms. Alston Johnson, Ms. Tammy Alston, and Ms. Musette Pace were the heirs of whom?
So it's two separate names, Your Honor. It's Elise Sievers Warner, aka Daisy Warner.
Okay, so they are the heirs of Daisy Warner. Okay. Also known as Daisy Elise Sievers Warner, correct? Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Alston Johnson, you're here today because you've been identified as an heir.
Yes.
I mean, you've heard everything that I've heard. And do you understand that an Act 35 or an Act 135 petition can be filed in Philadelphia and in other cities throughout the Commonwealth when a proposed conservator wishes to take on the rehabilitation of a property that has been found to be blighted and abandoned? I'm trying to, I don't want to give you more information than you need. I don't know how much you know about Act 135 cases. So maybe the best thing to do would be to say, what questions do you have at this point of the court?
Your Honor, I don't mean to interrupt. Can I just add one thing? So Miss Alston Johnson and her sisters are represented by Michael Diallo.
Oh, thank you.
So I've spoken to Mr. Diallo, and where we are at, and I can discuss my requested relief. TGT Properties is an interested party. It seems as though we may be able to come to a resolution whereby the property is sold to TGT Properties, subject to this conservatorship, and TGT Properties will demolish the structure. So and again, Ms. Johnson can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Mr. Diallo is representing them with regard to that sale. He is aware of this action, and I've spoken to him about it, but he was not authorized to appear today with regard to the Act 135. So.
And I'd like you to please put that attorney's name on the record with spelling, because I'm struggling to hear his last name.
Yes, it's Michael Diello.
And why was Mr. Diallo not able to appear at today's hearing?
So it's my understanding that he was not retained with regard to the Act 135 specifically, but with regard to the sale of the property to TGT Properties.
I see. Okay. Again, I'll turn my attention back to Ms. Alston Johnson and ask her if she has any questions or if there's anything she'd like to add to what has already been said.
Your Honor, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. The only thing I would say is the property was in negotiation for sale to that particular construction company and the contractor. But we ran into a couple of roadblocks along the way. I think that Mr. Burari can explain that better than I can, if allowed, Your Honor.
So you were in negotiation to sell the property?
Yes, and this has been going on for quite a while.
About how long?
So I'm sorry, Your Honor, if I could interject, I have been helping her with the sale and probably can give you a better synopsis on the timeline. So I was engaged with her back at the end of 2019 in regards to this property, with helping her sell it. She's affiliated with a family member of a business partner of mine, which is why they reached out. They understood that we were in the business. And so she was looking for some assistance, both for proximity's sake and just for knowledge sake on actually getting the deal done. So as Mr. Pecora stated, the title is very complex in terms of the chain and the history. So we have literally been working since the end of 2019 to date, trying to clear up those title issues so that title and the deed could be transferred, insurable and marketable to the interested owner, TGT Properties.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Ms. Alton Johnson, is that an accurate representation of what you understand has been going on with this case?
Yes, Your Honor. And like I said, because he's in that profession, he could explain it better than I could.
Okay.
I'm in quotes an educator.
Okay. Then let me ask a question. And I'll just put it out there. It almost sounds as if, since the title owner is Rose Stiles and the deed records indicate that she took this from Elise Sievers Warner, but the deed is dated 50 years after Miss Warner died. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
Then-
Your Honor, that's
Am I
correct.
correct in that
Yeah,
there would need to be a quiet title action filed on this matter?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor, and I have filed that action. It is pending. Although I would qualify that as I filed the action to strike the deed. I did not ask that the title be quieted in the heirs, only because I did not yet have confirmation as to who the heirs were to quiet title in their names.
Okay, but that would be the next logical step, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and what is the status of your action to strike the deed?
It is filed, but service is again pending because Ms. Stiles is avoiding service. I have the same issues that I have in this action.
Okay. Okay. So at this point, there are two, as I understand it, there's two different entities with a present interest in this property. One would be TGD Properties, which has been in the process of trying to acquire it. Is that accurate?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the second would be a Philadelphia Community Development Coalition, which just filed the petition to perhaps have conservatorship interest granted. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
So we've got two separate things going on at the same time with regards to this property. And in the middle is Rose Stiles, right?
Correct.
Who's essential to both actions, correct?
Correct.
And because service has to be made on her, and not only for the Act 135 petition, but also in the action that has been filed or that's pending to strike the deed, right?
Correct.
Okay. Whoever it was that started out this hearing saying it's complicated, you get an A. All right. This is beyond complicated.
Yeah.
But I keep repeating what I've heard to make sure I understand it. All right. Then, Mr. Pecora, has, have the heirs, that would be Ms. Alston Johnson, Ms. Tammy Alston, and Ms. Musette Pace, have they been provided with a copy of your motion for alternative service?
I mailed it. However, because they have counsel, I would prefer to send it to opposing counsel. I'm not sure, to be very frank.
Okay.
I believe I mailed it out, but I can send copies to Mr. Diallo as well.
Yeah, you corrected me, and they are represented by counsel. Even if not in this case, they are represented by counsel.
Correct.
So, whenever somebody's represented by counsel, we try very hard not to interfere with that relationship between the attorney and the client. So I'm going to today do a couple of things. I'm going to direct Mr. Pecora to provide Mr. Michael Diallo, who's counsel for the heirs, with regards to the property, of the sale of the property to TGT, to provide a copy of the motion for alternative service. I'm going to review the motion for alternative service. And if, as Mr. Pecora has represented, the manner in which service is going to be made or attempted to be made, both on Rose Stiles and Warner Faith Tabernacle, is consistent with what the court and the law requires, I will grant that motion. And it appears to me that that's going to be essential for the sale to TGT to go forward in any event. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to set another date for a status hearing for this case, so we can learn more how service is actually going to be made on Ms. Rose Stiles and on Warner Faith Tabernacle. Okay?
Okay.
So, Your Honor, if I could interject, so so we are in touch with both parties. TGT, I believe, is associated with Rose Stiles, and we have contact to who would be representing the Warner Faith Tabernacle in this event, per our legal counsel on how to get the deal done and what the underwriting is requiring from the title company.
You just said two very interesting things, one of which is that you seem to have a sense as to how to communicate successfully with Rose Stiles.
Yes, it'll be through TGT, the
All right.
representative of TGT.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that to the attention of the court, because then once Mr. Diallo receives a copy of the motion for alternative service, he and Mr. Pecora may be able to be useful in effecting service in this matter.
Absolutely.
It's unclear to me at this point what's going to happen, since there are two competing interests here. TGT has the interest in purchasing it. PCDC has a different interest, but it also sounds, from what I've heard today, that regardless of who ends up with the responsibility for this property, it's going to be demolished. Is that what I understand?
Yes, and yeah, and just to be a little bit clearer, Your Honor, I think I understand there is a pending settlement where if everybody signed off, the sale to TGT could go through, at which point we would allow TGT to take conditional relief and demolish the property. Or as Your Honor indicated, if title can't be cleared, we would ask to be appointed conservator, demolish the property, and then deal with distribution, have the property sold free and clear and deal with distribution on the back end.
Okay. So who has any questions about anything with regards to our proceedings today or where we're going forward? And I'll do my best.
James, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. So I did have a question, Your Honor. So we have been, paying an attorney to work through clearing, the title, with all the heirs so that it could go through, a clear tale for the years that I mentioned between 2019 and up until date. So I'm just trying to figure out the responsibility in terms of the demands, who that would fall on, just from a legal perspective. Or is it valid because we have been working through this time and the issues that we have come across are strictly with title and actually getting it clear. So that's literally been the extent of our money and our time that's been spent on, trying to resolve this matter.
Okay. Is somebody else in the room with you, sir?
Yes, I have my business partners are present here.
What would be helpful to me is if they could show themselves and put their names on the record, because otherwise it's very unclear who's present and who's participating. Would you mind?
Sure.
If they could turn around to your side of the desk. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm Judge Ann Butchart, and you've heard, I think, what we're talking about here.
Yes, ma'am.
Could I have your names, please, for our record today as participating in today's hearing?
Sure. My name is Kalia Luff.
And could you spell that for me, please?
First name is KHALIA. Last name is LUFF, 2 F's as in Frank.
Okay. And madam, your name?
My name is Erica Kellum, ERICA. Last name spelled K as in kite, ELLEM as in mom.
All right. And what is the name of your business group that the three of you are engaged in?
Sankofa Properties.
Could you spell that for me, please?
Sure. S as in Sam, A, N as in Nancy, K, O, F as in Frank, A, Properties, and that's plural.
Okay. Is this an LLC?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. So Sankofa Properties has been working with your own legal counsel on the TGT deal. Is that correct?
Yes, on
Yes.
behalf of the heirs,
Michael Diallo.
Michael Diallo.
That's who you've been working with. Okay. So, Mr. Buari, I'm not even sure that the question you asked is one that I can answer, but it sounds to me like you were asking which of these deals takes precedent. Your longstanding attempt to affect clearance of the title and the conveyance of the property to TGT, or the Act 135 conservatorship? Are you asking the court which of those takes precedent?
I think so, because we've been working on this for quite some time now, and the only reason it hasn't sold is because of the numerous, not just title issues, but the title issues are the estate issues. My great grandmother was also a part of this church and had ownership in it as well, which is how we even got the deal. So literally for years, we've been paying an attorney on behalf of the heirs, trying to get everything straightened out. We literally was almost at settlement a couple of months ago, and then another title issue popped up. So we're like right at the end, and then someone filed an Act 135, which I understand because looking at the property, you don't know what's going on. You don't know that someone's been working on this property for 3 years. So I understand. However, we have been working on this for 3 years. We have been trying to sell it. We have been trying to get rid of the blight, and you know what I mean? We have been trying to do that. We just running into numerous issues, title issues, legal issues, estate issues. So now it's just kind of unfair that there's another litigation lawsuit on top of this, and now we're responsible for more fees when we've been doing all of what we needed to do to kind of get this taken care of.
Okay. As I suspected, I can't answer that question, but what is heartening to me is that there are two attorneys on this case who can speak to each other and work through the issue, which is that an Act 135 petition has certain limitations as to where it can and cannot be filed. And if there has been, if the property has been actively marketed within a certain period of time prior to the date of the filing, then it's deemed to be ineligible for Act 135. Your case is quite hard to pin down because you're saying that the property was in play. There was an attempt to sell, but I don't know how that would square it with the statutory limitations of Act 135.
Right.
So, and I think that Mr. Pecora sort of alluded to that when he talked about a potential ultimate resolution that would involve the sale of the property as you propose with the conservatorship action, which would result in some monies going to different pockets. That's what I think I heard. But we're going to set a date, and I will respectfully request Mr. Diallo's presence at the next hearing. And I'm going to ask Mr. Pecora if he can arrange to let Mr. Diallo know that he has several people here who are his clients, even though it's in an unrelated matter, but that matter touches on this one, and his assistance would be welcome.
Yes.
Let's allocate an hour for the next court hearing, and let's allocate an hour and a half so we're not hard pressed for time, and see what we can come up with.
Your Honor, I'm looking at Friday, January 6th at 10:30 in the morning.
Is that a good day? And I should let everybody know that the Supreme Court has advised that we are no longer able to conduct these hearings by Zoom. We have to return to in-court hearings. So that hearing on January 6th would be in courtroom 453 of City Hall. All right, and that will be on our order today.
Next available? You guys have anything sooner?
That's the next available date that we have, yeah.
We need to push.
Now, I'm trying to come up with a way that will make certain that all of the individuals who are here today receive notice of that hearing. It's called I think it's a 236 notice. And I'm wondering if I could get, or if Mr. Teshko could get email addresses for everybody so that we could make certain that you receive notice of the next hearing. And I'll leave that to Mr. Teshko to get that information from Ms. Alton Johnson, Ms. Luss, Ms. Kellen, and Mr. Buari. Okay. Again, I don't want to step on your attorney's toes. I just want to make sure that because you're here, that you get everything that you need in order to fully participate.
Understand.
Are there any other questions, or is there anything else to come before the court?
Your Honor, can you just state again the time on Friday, January 6th?
Yeah, January 6th, 10:30 to noon. We'll allocate an hour and a half for this. Okay? Does that still work for you?
And I have to appear in person?
Yes.
I live in Virginia.
So Your Honor, I apologize. So we will work to have Michael Diallo present, representing her, and all of us.
Mr. Buari, thank you.
Coming at time. We'll work to have that done.
Okay.
So if Mike Diallo is present, does that mean Ms. Jardel doesn't have to?
Right.
That's right. If he's representing all four of you, right? He's representing Ms. Alton Johnson as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Then it would not be, yeah, then he would represent your interests. Okay. All right, I think we can adjourn, so that I will be leaving the virtual courtroom, but, Mr. Teshko will get everybody's email addresses, okay?
Your Honor, that concludes today's proceeding. The court stands adjourned.
Thank you all very much for this very interesting case.